and welcome to the 2021 American Planning Association Awards Ceremony. I'm Kurt Christensen, Immediate Past President, and your MC for our event. Today, we will recognize and honor the efforts of planners around the country working to create safer, stronger, and more equitable communities. As the past year has demonstrated, planners are more important than ever, from leading recovery efforts during the pandemic to helping communities envision a stronger, more sustainable future. We are bringing the awards ceremony directly to you, enabling more planners, stakeholders, and elected leaders to join our celebration, and to help elevate all of the exceptional planning work taking place around the country. The recipients we will recognize today have demonstrated the strength to challenge the status quo, correct past wrongdoings, improve access to opportunity to all, and demonstrate the value and importance of planning within our communities. Let's get started with recognizing the members that help strengthen the fabric of APA through our chapters, divisions, and Student Representatives Council. To start off the ceremony, I'd like to welcome Chapter President's Council Chair, Sarah Copeland, to discuss a bit about APA's 47 chapters. Sarah?
Chapters are the geographic components of APA, and everyone belongs to at least one chapter, or maybe more. Chapters are APA's hands and feet. They carry out programs on the local level, and so it's exciting to see every chapter decide for itself what's important to its members and how they can best serve the people who are in their area. In the same way that all politics is local, a lot of planning is local also. So chapters offer specific programs to their members, ranging from chapter conferences that provide professional development opportunities to pro bono programs to help provide planning support to local communities. Some chapters get really into policy and advocacy to address state level legislative concerns. Other chapters do a lot of mentoring and development of student planners and emerging professionals. So the work that each chapter does is specific to its area and what is important to its members. The Chapter President's Council gives two categories of awards. We give the Karen B. Smith Awards to chapters for the work that they are doing as an organization. And we have also given leadership awards to individuals for the great work that they're doing on behalf of their chapter. This past year, we decided to rename the leadership awards for Lynn Jorgensen. Lynn was a longtime leadership associate at APA who provided support directly to each of the chapters and the Chapter President's Council. Lynn died unexpectedly for us last summer, and we miss her so much. She was a wonderful person in encouraging chapter leaders, supporting us through chapter meetings and elections and programs and projects, and we miss her very much. So renaming our leadership awards for Lynn was a way to recognize the incredible support she gave each and every chapter president during their term and all of the leadership of the Chapter President's Council. I am pleased to announce that this year's Karen B. Smith Award for Outstanding Chapter Achievement goes to the Florida chapter. The chapter has become a leader in chapter-level equity, diversity, and inclusion efforts. And they are also an outstanding leader in ongoing advocacy and policy efforts that provides training to their members and supports their efforts to advocate on behalf of the planning profession.
Thanks, Sarah. In addition to the overall Chapter Achievement Award, the CBC has also recognized the following 2021 award recipients. Karen B. Smith Award for Outstanding Service to Members, APA Illinois. Lynn Jorgensen Leadership Award for PDO, Trevor Dick. Lynn Jorgensen Leadership Award for Chapter President, Sarah Marchand. Next up, I would like to welcome Divisions Council Chair David Fields to update us on the work of the 22 divisions. Take it away, David.
We like to think of divisions as the nouns of the organization. If people remember the old Schoolhouse Rock, we are the persons, places, and things of APA. So on persons, we are the population-based divisions that might include planning in the Black community, women in planning, Latinos in planning, and LGBTQ in planning. The places, we work at all scales in divisions. So we have federal planning, county planning, small town and rural, which you might hear about again very soon. And then the things, these are the content areas, the topics. That includes environment and transportation, housing and law, and many others. In total, we have 22 divisions, and these really span the spectrum of anything people want to be doing throughout the profession. Divisions really provide a professional network. We are not geographic based, so we are all around anywhere APA is, whether that is across the country, even across the world. We have an international division. This provides planners with people who are coming from like-minded backgrounds, working in like-minded fields, and all throughout your career, it's kind of an inherent mentor system where you have people who have been where you are, or maybe where you want to go. And we really encourage this as a family approach. Every year, divisions pick what we call our initiatives. These are things that are bigger than any one technical area or population or scale that really benefit from many different people and points of view. In the past, we've done things like how airports affect a whole region, whether from the transportation standpoint, the economic development standpoint, people who live nearby it. And we pick different ones every year. This year, we are focused on the 2 new AICP credits that are rolling out in 2022. So we are developing extra content for equity and extra content for sustainability and resilience through all the different lenses of our division topics. This is going to provide many extra CM opportunities for all members, as well as really introduce everybody to the different points of view we bring to our topics. To learn more about divisions, come find us on www.planning.org/divisions. I am pleased to announce this year's recipient of the Divisions Council Achievement Award for contribution to the planning profession is the Small Town and Rural Planning Division for its Lessons of New Ruralism. This joint effort between the division and the APA Northern New England chapter provides a critical case study for all planners working in small towns and rural areas, including capacity building, economic development, and community partnerships. While focused on those living and working in small towns and rural areas, the case studies and lessons learned can apply broadly to neighborhoods and communities throughout the country.
Thanks, David. In addition to the contribution to the Profession Award, the Divisions Council has recognized the following additional 2021 award recipients. For Best Newsletter, International Division. For a Best Practice, Hazard Mitigation and Disaster Recovery Division. For Communication Excellence, Transportation Planning Division. For Education Excellence, Planning and Law Division. For Overall Performance, Sustainable Communities Division. And the Terry F. Holzheimer Leadership Award, Vidal F. Marquez. Our last component group to highlight today is our Student Representatives Council. Planning students are the future of the planning profession. Here to share some updates is Chair Veronica Escalara Ibarra.
The SRC is one of the 3 components of APA. It represents the students as a whole of APA, which is one of the largest members in APA. SRC is comprised of 80 plus planning student associations from across all planning schools and the executive committee. The executive committee is comprised of the chair, the past chair, and 6 student representatives that are all elected to represent various regions of the United States. The SRC works diligently to represent the interests of planning students and help APA shape the policies that influence student issues. In addition to just an amazing networking opportunity, I think being involved with the SRC shows a deep commitment to the planning profession. And so whether you know it or not, you're learning, you're being immersed in the planning world, and just learning from planners all over the country is incredibly valuable. You learn incredible leadership skills and you grow professionally. So I highly encourage anyone who's thinking of any leadership roles in APA to seek anybody out, seek me out, and join. I think it's incredibly important to showcase all the work that these students are providing to the planning community. I think inspiration, a lot of the inspiration in the planning field comes from students. It's a learning opportunity for the students as well. So when they're showcasing their work, They're getting their name out there. I've seen incredibly talented planning students out there, and I think it's just an amazing opportunity to showcase the hard work that everyone is putting in. I am pleased to announce this year's recipient of the Student Project Award, the University of Michigan, for Self-Management Law Now, fostering community-owned, permanently affordable and sustainable housing in Brazil. This proposed law seeks to address the severe housing crisis which profoundly affects low-income residents and impacts many essential facts of life: access to employment, healthcare, education, and security. The team members' names are listed on the screen. Congratulations.
Thanks, Veronica. In addition to our Student Project Award recipient, the SRC has also presented an honorable mention for a Student Project Award to University of Maryland, College Park. Additionally, the SRC honors an outstanding PSO, Planning Student Organization. The recipient this year is Georgia Institute of Technology, Georgia Tech. An honorable mention to Arizona State University. We would not have planning students without our planning schools and academic practitioners. Since 2008, PAB has honored one educator and one practitioner each year for their contributions to the PAB's mission to promote excellence among planning programs and ensure high-quality planning education. Today, we will recognize the planning practitioner selected as Site Visitor of the Year, Ramona Maddock. She began her career as an environmental planner in Hawaii and retired as the Assistant Deputy Minister for the Canadian Ministry of Indigenous and Municipal Relations. She enjoys site visits to keep in touch with the younger planners and the cutting-edge activities of our planning schools. And continuing to recognize academic practitioner work, every year APA's scholarly journal, the Journal of the American Planning Association, Associate Editor selects the best paper for the prior year and the best paper by an emerging scholar. Let's recognize this year's recipients. JAPA Article of the Year goes to Energy Cost Burdens for Low-Income and Minority Households. The JAPA Best Article by an emerging scholar goes to Trading Uber for a Bus. Let's give our first group of award recipients a nice round of applause. Let's now turn to recognizing our National Planning Award recipients. APA has presented national awards for more than 50 years to recognize excellence in planning. APA's updated National Planning Awards program reflects how planners are leading communities through a variety of challenges to safer, more resilient futures. We would not have awards to present this year without the hard work of our volunteer jury. Now comes the beauty of being virtual, as we're going to travel to Austin, Texas, Henderson, Nevada, San Francisco, California, and my hometown, Richmond, Virginia, all in one afternoon. Get ready to learn more about our 4 impressive National Planning Award recipients.
When we were done with the last update of our long-range plan, we were a much different city. Several years ago, when we were thinking about the update, we really needed to get much more sophisticated about our plan, take deeper dives in so many different areas.
I never heard of this before from the Parks Department. This was such a citywide outreach. It's the first one I've participated in.
We really wanted to evaluate ourselves. We spent a lot of time on analysis as well, which we didn't before. And looking at our existing conditions, our existing investments, and looking at them through an equity lens. Not only our infrastructure and facilities, but also our programming. And it created a lot of questions, and we needed to answer those questions. We were able to get into the Spanish media, able to use our cultural centers and engage those groups, our Asian American Cultural Center, and host some pop-ups there, and really looking at them to help us to communicate, to those groups. They helped us with translation, which was something that, we certainly didn't have before.
I was on the advisory committee for this planning session, and The process was really fascinating. There were whole suites of questions and polling and workshops around all kinds of park functions, from a ball field, which is very prescribed, to just being in nature. It was trial by fire in a way to learn all the things that needed to be taken under consideration to have a robust and meaningful parks department that would take care not only of what we had in the city, but would expand to many underserved and newly annexed parts of our city. What I was really surprised with was the food justice component. I wasn't so aware of how integral and important having food banks, community gardens, food distribution at rec centers was a big deal. When I saw some of the women lining up, there were grandmas there and all of that. And it's a real heartbeat of certain neighborhoods.
Some of our meetings were emotional. People still feel that there is a bias for spending dollars in certain parts of the city versus others. And I think that in starting to heal those kinds of things, the plan really highlighted where we have spent our dollars and where we're concentrating, where we want to do better.
All we can do is just take one side at a time and share what we've learned and try to leverage, and I think this was brought up in the master plan, leveraging resources across city departments, because traditionally been really siloed.
With this plan, we were able to adopt it by ordinance. So what happened is that we amended our city's comprehensive plan. So it became an element of the city's plan. It just elevated it even more, in the sense that we're hoping that we could meet a lot of the citywide goals with some of our work in the long-range plan.
You have to plan. Otherwise, you don't have a map of where you're going, and you'll be so distracted by the many, many needs there are out there. If you don't have a vision, if you don't have an objective that people can grasp and then add to, you have to know how the system works and what your role in that is. And so that's where the planning comes in. And the planning, I think in this, the 10-year planning did a really good job of saying your voice matters. You are the voice of your neighborhood and for your neighbors.
I mean, it just takes all of us and our knowledge of the city and really caring for what we do in order to make it a good product for the community.
Before the pandemic began in Henderson, there was a lot of momentum behind diversifying our economy and then the type of development that we were seeing in Henderson. Going in March, I can't remember the date exactly, but it was a Sunday and I was sitting at home and we get a phone call to report to the Emergency Operations Center.
At the start of COVID, I believe we were looking like most other people. We didn't know what was happening. We didn't know what the best steps to take were. It was difficult just to know the best thing to do for the health of our staff and the health of the community.
We have a legacy of good planning, and we have developed great working relationships with our stakeholders, with our nonprofit organizations. And so I think immediately we knew who to call. And as we were trying to find out who needed resources, who needed help, we had a very good database of all of those individuals that we knew we could contact and count on to understand where the need was at and try and meet that need.
One of the keys to our success has been the city's commitment to strategic planning. This foundation has enabled us to respond nimbly to the pandemic and to continue offering the services our residents and businesses need and that are key to maintaining a vibrant quality of life and achieving our shared vision of being America's premier community.
We were rushing to get as many resources out the door to as many of those people as we possibly could. And we ran out of our normal funding really quickly because it became significant. So we talked with Henderson and they cobbled up some additional dollars they could send our way that we could actually get out of the community to help people, taking that initial stress off of them. Early on, food was a large problem for a lot of people.
We participated in food delivery to people who were in either assisted living or they couldn't come out of their home, or they were concerned about coming out of their home. And so using social distancing and mask requirements, providing them flyers with QR codes to get access to resources, partnering with our courts to find out who is potentially getting evicted and working with them that way. Those are non-traditional roles for planners. The non-traditional role I played was being part of that emergency response team and being the lead of our ESF 14, that community long-range recovery group. How does our recovery plan intended to be a 6 to 9 month process? How does that meld into, and how do we transition into that strategic planning that we do on a regular basis, and that operational planning that we do on a regular basis? And it was, I think that's what's unique about this particular plan, is that it was designed to dovetail with our other plans that we have at the city.
We have a saying around here: in the midst of chaos, what is the ground to be gained? In Henderson specifically, they had a strategic plan, and they pivoted that plan within just an amazingly short amount of time, a few weeks, and came out with this plan to actually address the pandemic and to recover from the pandemic.
You know, one of the main outcomes that we have here is we have the lowest transmission of COVID in Southern Nevada and the highest vaccination rate. And we think that having a plan and what our goals were helped with that.
We've become stronger partners. The trust level is incredible. Before any of the other jurisdictions around here, to my knowledge, they were the first ones that were ready to go. So again, it led us to be able to lean in with them and say, okay, we're going to go attack housing. We do that right now. Let's go get at it. And those are all, to me, values of the planning process.
Bayview was often described as a forgotten district of San Francisco. So it's a little bit more far removed than other parts of the city. And even though it was often described as a forgotten district, it's a really resilient district. There's just a legacy of distrust with the government. That legacy of distrust came from a lot of broken promises from the government. You know, the Bayview's the story of a once thriving Black community becoming victim to disinvestment and redlining and all these things that we see. That's a very American story. You have a thing that is the source of jobs and income and stability that essentially gets ripped from under a community's feet. And that led to quite a bit of distrust, because it's, how do we know that you're not going to just do what everyone else has done, which is nothing?
It started with SFMTA partnering with organizations that did have the trust of the community. We didn't want to go in and be another city agency or partner that disappointed the community. We made sure, again, that we worked with trusted community partners in order to continue the community outreach and to get the feedback and actually have honest conversations.
The community has one of the highest percentage of youth in the city. And so I was like, we can't do this project and not do something involving youth. We found an after school program, and I brought all my planning friends along and just wanted to get the youth interested in careers and planning. And that's what we did. We ended up making a video, getting youth interested in transportation. We also did participatory budgeting for the first time. Participatory budgeting essentially is having a pot of money and allowing the community to say where that money goes. But they are involved in everything from the project generation to what projects make the ballot and how much money can go towards what project.
So some of the outcomes were the quick build projects, which address pedestrian safety, some of the bus shelters, as well as better access to bike lanes. And those started happening actually even when you were in the middle of the planning process. Like some of the bus shelters were starting to get worked on. We're seeing quick build shelters at this phase being completed and some starting. And one other aspect that came out of this was bringing back what they call, the Bayview calls the 15 bus, right? And so the 15 bus is now back, and it is taking people downtown San Francisco within 15 minutes, which is awesome. People's access to downtown, where many jobs are, had been limited because it was taking so long to get down there. And the fact that now you have this bus that's able to allow folks to get downtown is great. One thing that we made really clear, that this was not a one and done for us. B-Magic has been involved in trying to address transportation challenges in the community for years. We are invested in really addressing this issue with the community and obviously with our transportation partners. And so we continue to keep folks engaged. I think it just solidifies how important the role of having a great transportation network that connects all communities, especially communities that are underserved, disadvantaged, how important and needed it is. Transportation can open up opportunities for this community and make things easier and relieve some of the hardships, at least in terms of connecting people, right? And so I think that's been validated through this project.
I think the value of planning is people. It is building relationships with people. It is serving people. I think at the heart of planning and a good planning effort should be people.
A lot of what we're trying to do in 2021 in the city of Richmond and lots of other cities in America is undo the damage over the last 60 years that we brought on largely by ourselves. In some of the ways we've addressed housing and zoning and uses and transportation.
The tagline of the master plan is designing an equitable, sustainable, and beautiful Richmond for its 300th birthday in 2037. And I think rewriting the zoning ordinance is critical to trying to reach that vision. In order to become more equitable, we have to allow more housing types throughout all different parts of the city. If we want to be more sustainable, we have to allow more land uses within close proximity to each other to reduce trips and to make multimodal transportation more feasible. And if we want to have a beautiful city, we need form-based guidelines that help give people ideas about how to design their buildings so that we preserve our existing authentic neighborhoods. To me, the value of planning is that we have these expansive, wicked problems that exist in our society. In Richmond, it's poverty, it's helping manage a changing climate. And the only way that you can start to tackle those huge problems is by bringing a lot of different perspectives together.
In the city of Richmond, we have a lot of history here. In Richmond 300, part of planning about our land use was an idea of how do we reconnect neighborhoods across the city.
The plan really sought from the beginning to ensure that every type of Richmonder was included in the planning process in order to make a plan where everyone saw themselves in the plan and where everyone would benefit. One of my key lessons for planners coming out of this is that you set your engagement goals, you set your process. And if in the middle of the process you realize that you're not reaching your engagement goals, don't be afraid to stop, reevaluate, and create a new approach. We had said we wanted to reach those other corners of the city, but it didn't happen with our first approach. And so what we ended up doing was we issued a call for people to apply to serve on an engagement team. We paid each one of these people $5,000 to help us. Those 7 members helped us translate planning jargon into more accessible language and helped us also shape their own language and messaging about the plan so that they could, in their own words, in their own authentic words, go out to their community and talk about why the plan mattered and get some input, gather a broader constituency within the planning process.
You did see those typical kind of public meetings, but there were also sort of office hours where folks could connect with planning staff at a local coffee shop or something during the day. There were online surveys that were put out to folks. So we had 115 people participating across a number of working groups that we had for each chapter, a total of about 9,000 resident touch points with this, and the establishment of a community engagement team.
Now that the plan has been adopted, people are using it and they're looking at it and they're pointing to it to help support their initiatives. They feel like it's theirs, which is that's the dream of what a planner wants after they do a planning process. We're working on a small area plan for City Center, as we're calling it, to reposition the downtown, take down our defunct Coliseum, put in hotels, housing, office, all centered on a wonderful green space, adding more office space to help support businesses.
In terms of new projects that come online, I'm thinking of some recent housing development projects coming up, and some transfer potentially of some city-owned land to the Maggie Walker Land Trust and some other nonprofits who are working on developing some affordable housing options for folks. So things like that, I think, have direct tie back to Richmond 300 and sort of the guidance and the vision for where we want to go. So I certainly think it's having an impact already. I think it really communicates, where we envision ourselves as a community over the next 20 years. And I think we can get there.
Let's congratulate our 2021 National Planning Award recipients. Thanks for joining us to celebrate this year's outstanding planning work. All of our award recipients today demonstrate how planners lead communities to a stronger, more prosperous future and ensure access to opportunity is open for all. Keep up the good work. I hope our award recipients have inspired you. And let's keep planning stronger communities.